lunch entertainment. So, if you came here to take a nap, you're in the wrong place. And we just drink a lot of coffee, so we're ready to go. So I hope you are too. So, without further ado, this talk is about prototyping the pivotal moments first. So you've heard that word a lot today already, is moments. So we're going to kind of unpack that as we look at that and figure out and talk about how we attack that. So really, solving those forks in the road. Again, we'll talk more about that. But first things first, we want to be respectful and introduce ourselves. You want to start?
My name is Mason Brown. I'm a product designer at a firm in Richmond, Virginia, which is in the United States. I'm a product designer that worked with Cameron for years before he went to Capital One and left me, unfortunately. But we came together because we both had a massive love for both data analytics and really meaningful product and intentional product.
And I'm Cameron. I left him. It was heartbreak tragic. And I work for a big bank called Capital One. So, yeah. We spent some time together, learned some of these skills we want to share with you today. But we came all the way, we made a big trip from the east coast of the United States, like south of Washington, D.C., and we love it here. It's our first time here. You might not be able to see this, but I'm wearing socks with coffee on them. I love how much you guys like coffee. It's been awesome. You guys are awesome. This has been fantastic. So some of the people that we've worked with that you would recognize are Capital One, they're a large bank, Allianz Insurance, people like WestRock, American Express. We've worked with a lot of other brands as well, but they're local to the United States. But what we found is this process we're going to walk through today is something that works for large organizations, like massive ones, and small ones. So I hope this gives you an idea. But most importantly, our process is for figuring out those moments we've heard about today quickly. Quickly. So if we're talking too fast, it's because we're talking about something that is fast. So what we found is we've kind of pulled together different influences to build this process. So it's a way to identify, prioritize, and create solutions quickly. And we took this from design sprints. How many people have heard of design sprints? Awesome, cool. Design thinking, and then also, as we all do, banging our heads against the walls, trying to make things work. So, real quick, sorry for the people who just raised their hands. Design sprints, just to catch everybody else up, it's a method that Google came up with a guy named Jake Knapp, a designer, and it's popularized his book Sprint. And so what it is basically you take one problem for a week, and you take a team of like 5 to 10 people, you take designers, product managers, you take stakeholders, you take everyone you can into a room, and it gets very sweaty in that room, for 5 days, Monday through Friday. You take one problem and just figure it out. You come up with questions that you would ask the user. You ask those users those questions. Spoiler alert. You come up with different ideas and you put those together by the end of the week and you test an idea that you can all agree on. The idea is from there you can take something and push it forward. So within a week, you've focused on one problem and you've come up with one solution that you know is going to work. So we absolutely, let's go back to that. We absolutely love doing design sprints, but what we've found is that it's really hard to, in organizations, ask your bosses to say, hey, I'm going to disappear for a week with 5 other people, is that okay? It doesn't always go over well. And also, if we were talking to clients, we talk to stakeholders, and they wouldn't know what to expect at the end of this week. And so just overall, it's hard to convince people that you want to just focus on one problem and move forward with that. So this is what we're bringing to you today is kind of our reaction to that. So we're responding to the fact that there's never enough time because maybe people won't give it to you, maybe you just don't have that time. We're all busy people, I am sure. So what we do is we kind of boil this up to common elements that you can focus on, whether it be moments, common user problems, or just common data that we can collect easily. And this will help us solve for big problems and also very specific small problems. So big problems like, for example, we've worked to create a better grocery shopping experience. That's very broad. But something that's specific to how do we improve an awful password reset experience? And we've all had those experiences, unfortunately. So that's what this is for. But I keep talking about pivotal moments, and if you saw this on the program, you might be asking, like, what does that pivotal moment mean? To us, it's where everything that we work on behind the scenes that the user never needs to know about, hopefully, intersects and comes into one point. So it might be you have the best back-end engineers, you have the best design, you have the best marketing. It doesn't matter. This is when it all comes together into one point that's pivotal to the user. Because and this is something we heard in the keynote, it reminds users of the value of the product. It's not that they have to say like, oh, it's okay if this doesn't work today, maybe I'll just check back tomorrow. Like, no one goes shopping online and says like, you know what, I'll just come back for that impulse buy. They want things to work when it is supposed to work. So we think of this in three different ways, 3 different types of moments. One is complete, so when you're completing an action with the product, if you're deepening your relationship with the product, and then finally, if you're severing your relationship with that product. So 3 different categories, and let's kind of walk through what those are. We think about complete is like, this is when you finally realize like why you have that thing. We all have Find My iPhone if we have iPhones, and it's that app that you're like, I can't delete that. I'll delete every other horrible, useless app, but I can't delete Find My iPhone. And you know why? That one moment when you finally lose your iPhone. How many people have lost their phones? Oh, come on. I was about to raise both my hands, but I'm holding the microphone. If you've ever lost your phone, like this is the moment where you're like, that's why I have that. That's why I have that Find My iPhone on my MacBook, whatever the case may be. It's when the user can realize like, that's why I downloaded this. That's why I went to this site. Whereas deepen, so you think about, some of us may not have packed our lunch, so we go on iFood, we order lunch, right? It's a moment of weakness, we didn't pack our lunch, it's Thursday, there's a meeting coming up, so we order lunch. And then next week, it comes to be lunch in the middle of the week again. And iFood sends you a notification saying, hey, you want to get lunch again today? We'll give you $10 to come with us. And they're deepening that relationship. It's maybe people who weren't logging in, maybe people who weren't actively using every piece of this product, every feature, whatever the case may be. You're giving them an opportunity to be a stronger relationship with you. And then finally, the dreaded sever. So I don't know how many people have ever been browsing on Netflix and you just can't find anything. It's pretty much every other day. But you're like, you know what? Why am I doing this? I don't need this anymore. I'm going to cancel Netflix. And at this moment where you say, I'm going to cancel Netflix, they try and stop you. They try and remind you, hey, remember, you really liked The Crown. We're going to get that soon. And if they can't convince you that way, they say like, well, let's lower the price. Let's give you a discount. I mean, how many of us have put that gaudy shirt in our cart that's like, I'll wear this once, and then we don't buy it, we leave it in our cart, and then in our email it says, hey, if you come back, we'll give you $5 off that shirt. And suddenly you're like, hey, that shirt's not too bad. So you're trying to keep people connected with your products. So we break these moments down into those 3 different categories, knowing that there are plenty of other moments that are going to happen with the products. You're going to go through many different login steps. You're going to have people that reset their password, like we mentioned. We're going to have people that change their preferences. There's plenty of moments that happen with the product. But we want to focus on those that we can address intentionally. So that's why we have those 3 categories. And with that, hand over to Mason.
That's me. Sorry. I'm like naturally a very loud person and a very fast talker. So microphones are always kind of an interesting battle. So I saw a lot of hands on people that were familiar with design sprints. Who here has executed a design sprint? Oh, wow. Okay, so who here is with a product, like works for a product? Works for, or works on a single product, excuse me. And then what about multiple products? Okay, nice. Is anyone in like a consultancy or like you have client services? Yeah, that's me too. Well, okay. So we hope this thing can scale for all kinds of different people. But in our business, in Capital One, that's not your name, Cameron. When Cameron was at Capital One, he went from a bunch of products to one product. But in our experience with client services, we had to take that design sprint process, and one thing that we really enjoyed was how intentional it made the work. One thing that's been really frustrating working on technology is when you get handed a requirements doc. I don't know if a BRD is familiar here, a business requirements doc. It's a disaster. It's a useless document, in my opinion. Sorry if anybody's BRDs. But yeah, we really enjoyed the fact that the work by the end of the design sprint felt intentional, it felt driven by the user, and it felt important. And it's something that we wanted to recreate over and over. Unfortunately for us, either clients or bosses or whoever involved, they didn't always want to do the massive investment with the design sprint. So we kind of hacked our own solution together, and that's what we're going to go through today. So we usually have these kind of three major steps. And I don't know if you've seen the Design Sprint 2.0, it's 4 steps. Ours is 3. It usually takes 1 to 2 days, and you can do it with 1 or 2 people at a time. But you have to have these kind of moments in place and some stuff there for you to work on. So I'm going to go through these 3 steps. 1, identify these moments, kind of like Cameron was talking about. You're going to map the experience, and then you're going to iterate and improve. And there's going to be some overlap with the Design Sprint experience, but also some ways that we've differentiated it. So step 1 is to do your homework. You got to find these pivotal moments, these completions, these deepening opportunities, these severed. Going through the data that you have in an organization or going through your user research and pulling out these moments. One thing that Cameron mentioned early on that we're talking about is that we see a lot of overlap in a lot of the work that we've done. So we kind of try to pull out, we can start here. So the first one is how do we identify these moments with data that we have? One thing that we always look for when we're starting a client engagement or a new project or a new feature is we look for these moments in that. So if we're saying, is it a feature that can deepen the relationship? We're looking for repeat visits. We're looking for engagement time on certain features. We're looking for referral data. These are really good inflection points you can start on that either they are completing their deepened relationship or there's an opportunity to complete it. When they sever the relationship, that one's very obvious, kind of at the top level. When I cancel my Netflix account, when I uninstall the app, when I abandon a web page. How many people work in mobile applications? Okay, and how many people work in web? So I'm going to throw in a lot of terms that kind of are metrics for both, but I was just thought that you could do. And then completing their goals. Conversions, task completion, enrollment. Where are we seeing data on these? So I'll go through some examples. Or maybe I won't. Yeah, so sever. This is something that we have that we kind of come back to over and over, is that we had a client that was a banking app that had this miserable password reset experience. And the mandate came from the call center, hey, we got to fix this. This thing is, frankly, the way the VP came to me was this sucks. Which I was okay, cool, Frank. But we saw that 40% of users were failing to proceed with the password reset. That wasn't data that was dropped down to us, that was just us knowing that we need to figure out some data to back this effort. That's an example of a sever data point. Deepen. We see in user research that 45% of users have requested personal research from a research team. This is for a large grocery store client in the United States. But only 6% of our users are actually engaging with them.
Personal recommendations.
Personalized.
Personal research. Okay, good.
That's stupid. But only 6% of them engage with them. So this is an opportunity where the users have expressed desire for a certain feature set, but none of them are engaging with it. So there's an inflection point here. We can work forward from here. We can make the work intentional. And then how do you identify these moments with user research? So let's say you don't have a pretty good data analytics operation. A lot of our clients, when we get started with them, don't. So we do focus groups, we do user research with them, or we show the app to our friends and family. I show a lot of apps to my mom. I get her feedback.
She gets tired of it.
She doesn't like apps. But we ask questions like, what made our product more interesting to you? How's that deepening your relationship? Or why did you leave the app? Or why did you stop using it? And what's the reason you bought the thing? You kind of get some insights to drive this process. So if someone says back to me, I never understand the point of logging in, and our service offers so much more to logged in users, that's a huge point that we can start to expand on and work off of. If someone says I stopped using the app last year, it was easier to use coupons on the site, that's somewhere where we know that there's a difference in the app experience and the web experience, and we can work on that, we can solve for that. But the big thing here is focus on 1 to 2 data points. A lot of organizations that I work with, whether it's big multi-million-dollar corporations to small mom-and-pop startups, I don't know what mom-and-pop startup is, but a small startup with 5 people, they get focused on getting 100% of the picture. They want to know all the answers, and I think that's a huge mistake. This process is loose and fast on purpose, and it's to be done with a small team. Because if you fail, it's 1 to 2 days for your organization. But if you spend so much time trying to get to the right answer, the right question, you're going to miss opportunities to start exploring, which we're going to go into in a moment. But really avoid analysis paralysis and pick a data point to reflect on and then move forward with it. Because if it goes wrong, you just go back the next day. So now we go into taking those moments and prioritizing and mapping them. So we're going to select some pivotal moments to move through this process. The first thing is you're going to prioritize them. I'm sure you guys have seen XY coordinates for prioritization maps in the past. You can use any type of prioritization system in your organization. The one that we usually go for is users affected versus the impact on that product experience. So if we have some research points, where's my card, how do I share my shopping list, or why should I log in? We can kind of map these on an XY coordinate and pick the ones going to impact the most users and say that's the effort we're going to tackle over these next 2 to 3 days. Once we have that moment selected, we work backwards to the initial touch point for the product or experience. And in design sprint or in sprint, they say start at the end. We're saying start at the moment. Have you guys ever seen this image before from sprint? I'll kind of walk through it really quickly. So at the end, there's this moment. This is a customer begins therapy with some medical facility. That's the moment. We start there. We draw that on the right side. And then the left side, we draw all the users or all the actors involved in that process. We then work as a team to kind of fill that map in with all the steps in between. This is going to come from anecdotal research. This is going to come from research that you have, understanding the product, or just a flow. A screen flow, left to right, but just taking time to go through and map out the experience from left to right, whether it's high level, making an appointment, going to do the appointment, or it's screen 1, screen 2, screen 3. Just having a clean map to work off. You'll be surprised at the way it informs your prototyping. So here's an example of Cameron, some of ours. We have terrible handwriting, both of us, so don't worry about the writing, but we had our users on the left and the pivotal moment on the right. And this is something that Cameron and I we would go into rooms. No one asked us to do this. We would go into rooms and we would constantly just throw our stuff at the wall, try to get a better understanding, make a better argument. And then you have all the steps in between. I understand that it feels kind of like I'm saying, here's how to draw out. Start there and go there. But really, this is a muscle that I think as a designer, as a product person, you develop over time with your product. This process, I think, you learn by doing this stuff, or at least in our example we have. But yeah, once you have a solid understanding of the map, we can then explore and iterate. So now we have a solid understanding of the problem. We understand kind of the user journey to that problem or to that moment. So now we can actually start making solutions. One thing that's really important here, though, is that we spend 2/3 of this process on the problem. The solution's kind of like, at this point, you have ideas already spinning up. When it comes to prototyping, one thing that I think is lost a lot of times with organizations is they look at prototyping as a means to iterate on a single experience. Let's make one version, let's improve it, let's improve it, let's improve it. One thing that I always do when I'm working with junior designers in my company or with new clients is I say we use prototypes to find the edges. We want to understand all the different ways we can do a thing. So for rapid prototypes, again, I'm not going to tell you how to do your prototyping in your organization. You can do it in paper, you can do it through lo-fi wires in your design software of choice. You can do quick comps if you have a design system. That's what I do a lot of times. But anything that lets you try to move fast and try a lot of things. Because again, this is not about getting the right solutions. It's about almost like we're vomiting all the solutions out. Gross. Once we have those, so here's a bunch of different ways to identify a location. And this is very United States, but these are states in the US. But there's different ways to tackle a problem. This is a small problem. We needed users to get to the right region because they had different operating companies behind it. The solution, not important, different mechanisms to do it. I have a picker. I have a location-based service one. I have a zip code, which is like a postal code. Once I have all these experiences, or we as a team have all these experiences mapped out, we like to put them on a spectrum. The spectrum is really important for us to both prioritize a good solution, but also a way to communicate to stakeholders all the different options we've evaluated and put in a way they can understand. A lot of times when I'm showing stakeholders designs, they see a bunch of different options. They don't really understand how to rate them. They don't understand what they mean. So we always kind of break across an x-axis. So it could be from ease of access to security. It could be from simple to informative. It could be from visual to very quick. The spectrum really helps us kind of map out the different prototypes or different experience options. So for this example, we kind of go back to the password reset. We went through a lot of iterations of password reset. We had to get through, the security team had to agree to like certain things for a financial services client. But basically we had a bunch of different options and they got really focused on how do we present an email. If you guys are working product, I'm sure you got like very zoomed in on problems. Can we show the full email? Can we show a truncated version of the email? Do we make them enter an email? This is like a very narrow solution to this problem, but it still lets us kind of communicate to stakeholders all the different ways we can tackle a password reset. Because at this moment, we know that users are stressed trying to get their financial info. I'm making an advocate. I want the user to get their email. I want them to fire it off. I want them to reset their password. But security is saying we don't want to reveal their email. We have phishing issues. And there's a debate there. There's a tension there. We can talk through it. anyways. Once we have a solution that we feel good about on that spectrum that we have buy-in on, or like one that we feel like we can run with, we iterate to improve it. Again, you know, not every organization can spin up user research tomorrow. Not every organization can spin up a quick survey or a quick prototype out to users. One thing we ran into all the time is every time that we do user research for a client, it costs them $15,000, $20,000. A lot of clients that are smaller, they don't want to do that. So what we've done is we always get a flow on the whiteboard or in wires or whatever you can test with people, but like in your organization. So we always put it on whiteboards. It's something that also is from Sprint. I like whiteboards a lot because it's disposable. No one's precious about the design. You can update copy really quickly. The one thing that we've brought to this kind of whiteboard testing that we call it, and again, you can do this with paper, you can do this with Figma or Sketch or whatever solution you use, XD. We do this thing called the pitch to me test. And this is basically where we couldn't get users every time. We go and pull someone that's not in the project into the room. We pull someone down the hallway. We call a friend in. We have them come in. And we say, hey, you're going to come in and you're going to present the design to me. I don't get to say much. So I invite them into the room. They look over, they soak it in, and it's all its glory. Isn't it? We let them look over and kind of like understand what they're looking at. And then you have them present the design back to you. And this, we've found to be like one of the most informative things in our process. And a lot of times we'll take this process and then out to users, but you solve so many problems when you're having someone try to explain the intent back to you. Especially in an organization like we work in. We all work in part of the organization. We're always kind of thinking this way. When your peers, who are all very intelligent, are pitching the idea back to you, all of a sudden you see these gaps really quickly. And this is cheap. And cheap is good in what we do, all the time. Then bring someone else in. Have them come in. Improve on the design. Repeat. Improve a design and repeat. And all of a sudden, in one afternoon, you've gone through what I think 6 user studies could have proven you. And then when you go to users, you get the real valuable questions. Would you use it? Is this valuable? Net promoter score, product market fit. So what now?
So now that we've kind of taken our 3-step process there, you really want to get more people involved. I mean, that's the biggest thing, the biggest skill I think a product manager, product designer brings to the table is that you're able to kind of tell this story from different perspectives. So we pulled people in for testing, we pulled people in to kind of have them pitch it to us. So people are already getting involved. Keep that momentum. Keep having people look at your quick solution to these issues, to these specific moments. And beyond that, I know the question that we're all might be thinking is like, yeah, but how do I get approval? So what we found is that this helps us communicate with leadership a lot better. So if you're communicating in terms of, hey, we need to patch the system because of it affects latency and all, like they're immediately gone. They might not even stay in the room, they'll just walk out. And then sometimes even with features. I mean, we think a lot of times as product people in features, like these specific silos, but even that, there are still gaps between those, and maybe you have a new person in leadership who doesn't know the extent or the value of a feature. We talked about moments. You say like, hey, boss, have you ever lost your phone? Suddenly he's right on board with you, he or she is right on board with you and ready to jump in. So we find that's really valuable in speaking to it in this way. So we talk about the moment, lost my phone, need to reset my password, whatever the case may be, I can't log in. These moments that they can relate to. Then he or she, we then talk to them about our solution. So you know the problem, you know how this is affecting you. Here's where we're recommending we go, based on 1 or 2 days and some research there. Then you talk about the users affected, so they understand the scope of what you're proposing and how many people are affected by this moment. And then the value of that moment. So basically you're building a case, which is 4 parts, for something that is very relatable. You're not talking about features, you're not talking about systems, you're talking about specifically addressing for a user how to address this moment. So an example of that, going back to the password reset. So the moment is that user having issues resetting the password. They aren't logging in. If this is a banking app like we're talking about, there's a big problem if you're not logging in. No one just browses a banking website and is just like, cool, that APR looks great, these credit cards, awesome. Nobody's thinking that way. So the solution is that users are able to quickly see, yes, that's my email, confirm, submit, get their email. And that would impact 40% of these users that are failing to proceed with their password reset. And then if I'm leadership, I'm wondering what's the value? Well, online banking users are more likely to further engage in products like credit cards, loans, whatever the case may be. So you're really kind of building this entire narrative of why it's completely, it's just an idea they can get behind immediately because they can relate to that moment and understand the value and impact. So what do we do next week? So we're here today, we're all going to be here today, tomorrow, have a blast here at Product Camp, but like, how do you take this and make it work next week? Just quickly to review, start thinking about these pivotal moments. Do your research, like start to look at these trends and how people are using your product, what people have said about it, and find those moments where people are getting stuck, people are really enjoying things, or people are deepening their relationships. And start to prioritize and think about which of these should be addressed first. And then explore them. That's the most fun part. That's why Mason and I were constantly at dry erase boards, just trying to explore and understand these moments. And iterate, and keep bringing people in and have them pitch to you. Because then you'll have your team thinking in these moments, so the next time things like this come up, they can think like, okay, that's probably affecting the user who's dealing with this at this particular moment. I think you start to think about your roadmap in moments. Next quarter, we're going to specifically make this experience better for a user. This particular moment, we're going to improve. And you can start tracking to those moments. So it's not just bounce rate, it's not abandonment. It's not these very, very granular analytics and metrics. It's specifically around like, we're addressing this moment and improving it for our users. So with that, just generally, we definitely invite you, and the keynote speakers as well have spoken to this, invite you to look at your product as a series of moments, because at the end of the day, to your user, your product is just in their life for just a specific moment for them. For example, I want to share my work. I have this amazing art that I want to share. I'm chasing this moment that someone likes my work. I now feel like I'm providing impact. I need to get home. I might be lost in Sao Paulo because this is my third day here. And then suddenly the driver's on the way and I feel this sense of relief. And you're searching for a gift for Christmas, and finally you found the perfect gift. Then finally, the most important moment, you're looking for the perfect talk, and that moment where you found the talk. Thank you.
The bells.
So we have some questions from the audience.
Fine. Just kidding.
So we have some questions. So please vote on the questions so you can prioritize the most important questions. The address is behind the chairs. First question. Could you share some mistakes or some lessons learned in the discovery process?
Yes.
We could have a separate talk just for that, but
I think it's a really great question because I think a lot of this is rooted, and this is going to sound a little I think our first mistake was constantly seeking permission to do this kind of work. And that's kind of a self-fulfilling or makes us look good, but a lot of times we would ask like, hey, is this what we want to do? And we just started doing it. And that was one of the, once we got over that hump, it made it a much easier time for us to make better experiences. On the flip side, actual mistakes that we made, going down rabbit holes, spending way too much time, time box everything. Set a timer, pick a morning, make a meeting, but don't spend 3 days pouring through your research. You guys are all in product organizations, very intelligent organizations. Pull what you have and use that, and then you'll start asking better questions the next time.
and as much as you can, give yourself guardrails. So if you're identifying a moment, make sure it is a moment and not some sort of sequence of moments.
And the long, we've gone down rabbit holes where we spend a month on a thing and then it doesn't work, and then the organization loses faith. So making it fast and making it almost cheap makes it so the event blows up in our face. No one really gets that mad. Well, not mad. Mad's not the right word. Money.
So awesome. How do you empathize or create those moments with a persona that is very far from your reality?
So I work with a nonprofit in the United States where we teach middle schoolers design sprints. That's fantastic. Obviously, I'm very excited about it. But all that to say, we are constantly looking for new inputs. We don't assume anything, whether it be data that we can bring on from someone else, like someone else has done research. Either way, we're trying to constantly immerse ourselves in another perspective, so that way we don't ever feel. We don't ever feel like we can speak for another persona. We always try and find that data before we assume anything. So just constantly discovering new things.
The mapping exercise is a really good place to kind of expose the gaps. A lot of times if we get to a map and we can't really paint a clean picture of a certain user group or a certain actor type, that allows us to say, okay, now we should go back and do some research. And that goes kind of things what we were saying earlier, like move fast and break things, but that mapping experience is really helpful at exposing those gaps, and then we would go answer those.
And the last question, because of the time, but afterwards I'll have you guys answer those questions.
Sure.
How does the technical team, how should we engage the technical team in the model sprint?
To me, I mean, we've kind of found that anybody willing should be involved in these sprints because, again, like every perspective matters. Everybody has used a product, everybody's used an app, everybody's used a website, so we all have experience we can bring. I mean, maybe they aren't going in Figma designing everything, but they can go to a dry erase board and communicate an idea. You know, so if they're willing, like if that's something they're engaged in, you should definitely bring them in.
And a lot of times, because Cameron's a product manager, I'm a product designer, we would break out and do these exercises, but there's nothing to say that that's the ultimate pair for this, or it has to be a pair. It can be one person, it can be 5 people. The bigger thing is just keeping the scope down so your organization doesn't try to look too closely and freak out if you're spending too much time. The other big thing is that, like, if your technical team doesn't want to be involved in the actual process, that dry erase board and seeking their feedback that way, everyone feels a ton of ownership over the actual experience when you go through that process. And because it's a dry erase board, you're making changes, they're making changes. It's very democratic.
Cool. Cameron and Mason, everyone.
Thank you.